The Grey Hat Beard Podcast. Hello and welcome to Grey Hat Beard Show 45 Part 2. If you haven't listened to Part 1, we covered the first part of the news from Ignite and the exciting information there. We covered a lot around Microsoft Teams and the Microsoft 365 and Dynamics news. We're then moving on to Part 2 to cover a lot around Power Apps, Viva, some of the dev things with container apps and OpenAI service, and a couple of little surprises near the end that's worth sticking around for, especially if you like old things coming back, not just us. So we're going to go straight back into it, recording on the second half, so please enjoy. The biggest news, I think, for Power Apps is the per-use licensing. I thought this was massive, really opened things up to what you can do. I think the flexibility that we've had many times where we, as CPS, and in fact, when I was working on the client side as well, we want to build a Power App. It needed Dataverse, or it needed some premium connections. The whole organization would use it, but they may use it, sometimes once a month. One of the ones I built was an appraisal app on there. We wanted to connect to the third-party system they were using, but then it's a premium connector. You have to license everyone up. That per app, £10 for something was used there, just couldn't be justified. Now with this pay-as-you-go pricing, you can pay when people use that app and get the full functionality that you would get with your per app or per user licensing. So you've got your Dataverse, you've got your premium connectors within there. And they're also another one with that they're throwing in with list license. The other is AI Builder credits, so you can start to get your AI stuff everywhere. I think this is a massive move. I don't want to use the word gateway drug too much. I think we've already seen that with Dataverse for Teams. I think this is the next step. But it really enables some of those things. I think a lot of organizations having to want to make that massive leap certainly towards a per user, which was 40. I think it's down to 20. I can't remember that. I think that's a certain period. I can't remember if that's been confirmed. But this really opens things up as well.
Yeah, we had the announcement, I guess a few months back, about the Power Apps licensing being heavily discounted, and I think the Azure, using Azure subscription, something that's already there, and pay as you go makes total sense. It's I think in most cases when you speak about Power Platform, you want to get into it, you inevitably hit that licensing conversation, whereas now at least you can. Yeah, exactly, pretty quickly. And it's a shame though as well, because it starts to overshadow a lot of the things that it does give you, and I think it sets the conversations on down the wrong path, whereas at least this allows you to kind of not remove it completely, but at least park it for a little while whilst you continue on that journey.
I think this also enables that conversation around having a proper ALM process. You can have your different environments. You don't have to license.
Sorry, Al, for those who don't know, ALM is
the application lifecycle management process of properly developing your applications, testing them in a different environment. You can then use this, so you're only using it when you're testing, which is another it's another great step forward.
And you can use your Azure free credits with that as well.
And that's a real gap, though, what you've just mentioned there, Al, because at the moment, unless you actually put your hand in your pocket, you can't actually do that. You can use developer plans, you can get clever with that and different accounts, but it's not a real solution. But this definitely does open that up now. So yeah, that's a really good point.
Do those developer ones, they give you full Dataverse?
Yeah, they're full Dataverse, the premium connectors, they're obviously development only. They're not for production. But yeah, you obviously have limited capacity with what you get with
it's interesting. I was reading this and thinking of a particular client who's kind of toyed with going down the full Dataverse route, but just can't quite justify that cost. It's one of those ones, there's quite a few apps they could build, but they won't build them until they've got the license, and they won't get the license until they've got the apps. It's a bit of a catch-22. And I was thinking, this is perfect. We can build out a few apps, get the momentum for those. There's going to be a point where the cost of running those apps goes to actually be cheaper, probably, to get the per user license, or it may never get to that point. It may sort of stick with that one. But I've just remembered that they're not allowed to use Azure yet either. So that has absolutely scuppered that plan. Bugger. I'll bleep that one out. Yeah, brilliant. No, but really useful, really exciting. And I think I feel the AI builder is kind of really big thing as well within that, because I think that's a lot of people have been scared off that because it's quite a big investment to it. Again, it's that opens it up to getting more as well.
And again, this gives you the ability to gauge the usage. The question with Azure is always, well, how much is it going to cost me? Well, I can't predict how successfully you're going to roll this out. So then it becomes more of a, okay, well, if it's really successful, you can see the value of it, and it's a less difficult conversation when you're saving a lot of time with it.
Yeah, and I think it's a wise move as well. You think of Azure and you think of the cost management features that are already there, which you'll be able to apply. Set caps so that you set your budget, and those are the types of things that you just get by using Azure, which not necessarily are there with the licensing model that we've currently got now in 365.
I guess that opens up another potential use case, which is the cross-charging to different subscriptions, doesn't it? If you've got an environment for a different department.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of benefits for this. Yeah.
Do we admit at this point the only reason we do Grey Hat Beard is it makes us think of these good ideas that we don't come up with normally? Yeah.
Oh, let's
be listening. Fantastic. That's a byproduct.
three heads are better than one for exploring these ideas and the impact of some of these. So absolutely.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So
getting my head distracted on that.
To turn this around for a second, this is a licensing conversation that we're having. It's just good. It's positive. We're getting things that we can get. We're solving problems.
Yeah, there's actual
bring Chris
positive
Huntingford
reasons.
and Nigel in to make this interesting.
Yeah.
On that note, my favourite photo from South Coast Summit was Nigel and Chris Huntingford having a hug and posing for a selfie and saying, "We all love each other, really."
But it's those kind of conversations that happen, right? It's and it's a shame sometimes that, yes, obviously you can't get everything for free. It has to be paid for, but it's it very much does kind of, like I said before, it sends the conversations down the wrong path sometimes. It becomes about the cost rather than what you're actually trying to achieve. And I get that, not every organization has a bottomless pit of money where things are tight, and you got to spend it wisely. But making things more accessible to make that decision, I think is always a good thing, and I think that's the key thing to think about it this way. It's you can try it now. It's not just you have to lump up a load of money to try it. I think the AI builder is a perfect case of that. We talked about Power Virtual Agents in the past as well. That to even just get your trial, and that's great, but to carry that on a little bit longer becomes an expensive exercise. So.
Absolutely. No, I think it's nice. So while we're on a positive route about licensing, there was some more licensing news, and I think people were pretty happy to hear this, especially people who love Viva, who might be quite close to where I'm sitting right now. And that is that the Viva suites, those 4 pillars, 3 of those were paid. There was announced it Inspire, the $4 per user per month. So if you wanted all 3, looking at $12. They've now come up with a slightly downside, a promotional price. Hopefully that will last a bit longer than that, but of $9 per user. So you can get that all-in license for everything in Viva in one case. And in fact, the Ally.io, which is purchased, I think we talked about in a previous show, although I'm wondering if we did now. I might come back to that in a sec. So when you've got that for your objective key results, that will be included at no additional cost as well. So in fact, even if you bring it up to that $12, I think Ally, when I looked at it, was about $7 per user per month. So that's as the kind of pre-Microsoft pricing. So it's looking like a pretty good deal for that one. And certainly if you're going all in Viva, a fantastic deal from that as well, which I quite like it. And I think it doesn't mention it here, but I saw noted as well that if you bring Glint into the equation as well, you get I don't think it's included in that $9, but the extra onto that is less than buying it independently as well. So really good news for those who want to go all in with Viva as well.
I think the important thing here is it's simple. It's simplified licensing as well. There's no, oh, well, if you have this many people on this many people on this, it's okay, you can just get everything all in, which again just makes that conversation a bit easier, doesn't it? It makes the predictability more easy as well for organizations when they're budgeting.
Yeah, so was pretty happy to see that. I think there was some interesting bits about the Viva connections. I'm going to flick over to another slide in a minute. Where did I see this a second ago? And I missed this until literally was reading it now, that in the on-demand session, they're talking about the new web parts that are going to be available in SharePoint. So I think they're hopefully within that session announcing which web parts will come by default. I did see this afternoon that the dashboards that you get within Viva Connections, they sit of there, you can now have as a web part on a page. So previously you had to have a full page to look at that dashboard in the preview. You can now embed that on a page itself, which I found in the middle of a demo with a client and got slightly distracted as I got excited, which gave them a bit of a chuckle as well within there. So it'd be interesting to see which other apps have started to come through and be announced that are coming with that too. So I thought it was good news. I think there's some good Viva Insights news as well, Al.
Yeah. Well, I was overjoyed with some of the things that they announced. In particular, I mean, they've talked about manager insights and leader insights coming, but now a new effective meetings experience. That intrigued me when I saw those words together as like a effective meeting. They don't usually go together, do they? And as Garry and Kev both know, I've banged on about this for quite a while now, even to the point of putting flows in to actually send automated replies.
Passive aggressive flows.
Yeah. For things like you don't have an agenda, and and one of the things that this effective meetings experience is going to give us is, did all your meetings start on time? So the meetings that you organised, did you get them all started on time, or were they late? And also, do you have an agenda for your meetings? Which I thought was that's fantastic, because it will just.
Is this coincidence? You've moved to Microsoft and now these things have happened? Or?
I'm not saying anything to that. But no, I think a lot of the work I'm doing at the moment is around hybrid. It's around meetings. It's around how we collaborate and engage. And I think these tools, it's nudge techniques, isn't it? Just to get people thinking about it. And if they think about it, that's the first step in actually starting to make a change. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see what this is going to look like. And I'm more excited to see exactly what sort of stats we will actually be able to see coming out of this. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they define, agenda as well. That was always something that was, you want the intent rather than just the word.
That's true.
Yeah, because there's different ways of doing that. Some people might go with a bulleted list. Other people might just have sections of paragraphs.
I know Al just had agenda, and I know I had the occasion of just writing agenda in that invite just to stop his workflow causing trouble. There's always people who gamify the system.
Yeah, but now if AI builders, you get credits for AI builder, that might be an option now.
Absolutely. Sorry, Garry.
No, unless there's something coming that will actually distinguish an agenda actually in a meeting invite. I mean, that to me is the answer, right? Don't stick it in the block that is where all the links go. Actually have a section that that's the agenda for this. And I don't know whether you could do that in Teams when you're creating a meeting. It always seems to kind of amaze me that an agenda is such an important piece, yet there's no agenda field. in a meeting.
Saying, it's just in that big description block. That's
that goes. Point. You could have the same argument to say, give me my details for joining the meeting, so you don't lose that Teams invites somewhere and the dial-in number and everything. Oh, let me just scroll down and find that past this 17-page agenda.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point, actually. I like that. I was just thinking with the identifying an agenda. I mean, if Microsoft can't, with all the content they've got from their all the exchange details, use a bit of machine learning to work out what's an agenda and what isn't, there's something going wrong there. I think some useful things as well. The one I loved about Viva Topics was that knowledge, being able to, if you haven't seen Viva Topics, it will pick up those topics, identify them on SharePoint pages. By the end of 2021, I've missed that number from here, but Outlook, Yammer and Bing will have those, so you'll start to pick them up. And I know rolling out next year as well to chats and channels within Teams, so that will really open up where these things can take place, which was great. Viva Learning has gone general availability, so you can actually actively use that and bring that there, which is fantastic. If we haven't talked about ally.io, I've talked about it an awful lot internally because I think it looks fantastic. OKRs are objective key results, so it's about your kind of appraisal style. You're looking there, here's your objective, this is what you should try and do. You may have in the past had SMART objectives, and then you've got a key result, a measure that dictates that. And what I loved about Ally is you can connect that key result into systems, so it could be in a database, a SharePoint list, Azure DevOps, interestingly, Gary, within that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's OKRs. If you kind of come into them new, I guess the easy way to look at it for me is alignment, right? It's organizational alignment from a goals perspective. So you've got your North Star, if you like. You've got your aspirational goals, but then as you kind of as it filters down, you're all heading in the same direction, but you've got slightly different metrics. So the DevOps, Azure DevOps kind of integration with that makes sense, right? Because you're working DevOps, you should be
deploying quickly, etc.
Well, no, there's that, but it's value at the end of the day. When you're putting in, when you're building things, what is that actually helping your organization to do? And that might be from the very top, it should be from the very top all the way down. Otherwise, you have misalignment. You're putting effort in that is not giving you the results that you actually need. So I think, it's great. I've heard a lot of talked about Ally, I must admit, not really used it much, but it is really interesting, this kind of top to bottom alignment through objectives.
I mean, we talked internally about that. I can see the demo there. It's talking about increasing your NPS score, your Net Promoter Score from 50 to 60. That can be at the top level. It can be each department. It can be each individual project and client you're working on. So seeing that put up, and I really think there's that value in you as an employee knowing how you're feeding into your company's objectives. There's always been talk about doing that. Using a tool like this makes it easy. And that's perfect. Really excited about this.
And I think one of the things, objectives, and you kind of feel like, okay, you've got a yearly objective, and then these are designed to be quarterly as well. They're designed to be reviewed on a regular basis.
It's actually built in that it can send you a notification every week on how you're performing, what your numbers are as well. So even more than that, it's something you do as part of your day-to-day process or week-to-week process, not on that kind of ad hoc. Oh yeah, we probably should look at that every now and then. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, it keeps it really front and center.
You don't just come up for an annual review and go, "Oh, more please," because I'm great. You actually have to demonstrate it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you have to do those exams eventually. You have to do those exams that will set in your objectives one day.
Do you? Yeah.
Apparently so. I'm changing the subject very quickly. Hi, Sam, if you're listening. In fact, hi, Ian, now, if you're listening as well. Moving on from it quickly, I wanted to pick up. There was a great post from Susan Hanley who pulled together all the roadmaps for the Viva ones. I love Susan for she always gets the roadmaps after the Ignite ones and pulls them into one place. There was a few interesting ones that jumped out, and interestingly, when I was talking with Viva Connections at the Ignite session, one thing came up with two different people was that ability to have multiple instances per tenant. So having that home site, having that dashboard per tenant. There's lots of organizations that have multiple that have a single tenant with multiple organizations underneath it, whether they've been merged or whether they just functionally work differently. That capability is going to come through on there. Yammer, if you're listening, lovely to see that for you as well, but we'll hold off a little while for that. So I thought that was a really interesting piece on there. There was one about the effective meetings. I noticed that's coming soon, which was a little bit depressing, and some quiet time settings. I was intrigued to hear more about that, what that is within Viva Insights. Coming back to that effective meetings, I think what was really interesting there is that comes part of their Viva Insights premium license. So this is the first thing on top of Workplace Analytics that's in the Insights banner. So be interesting to see that picks up. And also coming soon, I hope not too far away, is external sources with graph content connectors for Viva topics and that ability to seed new topics from the syntax taxonomy. Really hoping that also means a bit of an API. I'm going to assume it's through Graph to be able to create and query those topics. It'd be really nice to see that come through as well from there.
See, I quite liked in that one for topics the auto routing Q&A for suggested experts. I think that could be a massive efficiency gain for, I've got a question. Who do I go to? If it auto routes questions, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, no, I think it's really clever. Unless you happen to be one of those experts who gets hammered by things, but then
but then it'll feed into your OKRs, as to how effectively you're.
Like that, I do like that idea a lot.
If it's not feeding into your OKR, why are you doing it?
Absolutely, that's the question to ask, isn't it? Oh, it's for your MVP status, Kev. That's all right.
Touche. Thank you for reminding me. I do need to add a few things to that.
Oh dear.
I keep saying I'm not going to do it in February or March. Must get it in before. Now, Garry, this is your moment, because Ignite isn't just about Microsoft 365 and Dynamics. There is plenty of Dev and Azure stuff. And I know you mentioned one, and this caught my eye as well. Give us your Dev excitement from Ignite.
I guess this one kind of stuck out. It was, Microsoft's, approach at more managed services, really, and this one was around container apps. So Azure Container Apps is basically the serverless version for building applications that use microservices. So if you've heard of the terms, Kubernetes, mostly you'll see a lot of people really frustrated and confused because it's much more complex than what we used to do. We used to build everything in one stack. You'd have a database, you'd have the API layer, you'd have your web front end. Fine, you got 3 layers. You introduce microservices. Yeah, exactly. You knew where you were. Microservices breaks all of that up into individual services. So, companies like Netflix are a perfect example of this, right? You go to load up the videos on Netflix, and it'll be going to all sorts of different services, some just to render images, some to render video, descriptions, all that kind of stuff.
Comments, all that.
Exactly. And the benefit of doing that way is you're able to scale up your application. So these services can be scaled up and deployed multiple times, so they can take the capacity and the load, which obviously brings lots of complexity into that. And Microsoft have brought out container apps to reduce that complexity. And I think it's a real good move because I think these types of microservice apps is, if you're wanting to apply DevOps with your kind of your business applications where you're still in code, you're using Power Platform, things like that. You're going to get a lot of benefits of using microservices architecture, but there's a real learning curve to get onto that. So I think this is a real good step forward for organizations to make that progression from monoliths into microservices. Let Microsoft deal with a lot of that complexity and find your feet, and then look to go, okay, do we need to go to Kubernetes and start to scale out and manage things ourselves? And we've had this discussion in the past, like SQL now is Azure SQL has been around for so long, you wouldn't think of not really using it, because it go on, Al.
They did release SQL Server 2022.
They did. That was another announcement. But if you're wanting to just build something and you don't have to stand everything up, and you want some really good defaults, and let the service not manage itself, but take all that pain away.
But mostly,
just
yeah,
build it. Yeah.
And you're going to hit constraints within that you might need to kind of re-architect at certain points. I know with various things, like Azure functions, you're like, yeah, it'll scale up to what you want. Well, actually, apart from this and apart from this. So there's always going to be layers of complexity you'll hit. But to be able to get things moving quickly, get that MVP moving, that minimal viable product, get it on there, and then put the complexity in when you need to, really.
Exactly. And if you're... I gave the example of Netflix, right? How big is Netflix? Microservices has been proved there and it's trusted, but are you building, do you need Netflix style infrastructure for the application that you're building? Yeah. Most likely not. So, you can, like you say, not go to those lengths. You can build something, get the microservice architecture in there, and then let it scale up as it gets used, or not. If that might be the case, it might be that you've gone down a route and you've built something, and it, for whatever reason, it's not quite worked. Then you can just kind of scale that down, or scale it, turn it off,
or scale it down.
Yeah. So it gives you that flexibility. So yeah, it's I really like that. It was a good move.
No, I absolutely agree on that. I can now see Al's face. Have you got any more tidbits to add about SQL 2022?
No, it caught my eye, and I thought, it's been so long since I've looked at a server version of SQL. But yeah, it seemed the only thing that they were saying was that it connects to the cloud a lot better.
I was just about to say exactly that.
Backs up, and, it just integrates with the cloud a lot better.
Yeah. So it just sounds exactly like the SharePoint server.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can use this, but please use the cloud one. Here, let us help you get there.
Yeah, it's like the Office as well. It's you can use this. Please don't. Please use this instead.
I'm going to keep on the dev track before we lose it completely. It kind of dev, well, yeah, it definitely is the dev track, which is the new Azure OpenAI service. Now, this is going to mean not much to a lot of people, but it's talking about the powerful GPT-3 language models. Why am I excited about this? Well, the GPT-3 model's the one that's been powering the GitHub Copilot, where you can basically let it write your code for you. I think we talked about a demo. I put a link to the video a few months back where someone typed, I would like a game that moves this person to there. And when this person gets hit, I want it to fall over. And it wrote the code off the back of that. And we've seen also with the Power Platform, I think it's with Power Apps, the ability to kind of write in natural language what you want things to do. And it will interpret what the equation, the formulas are for that as well. GPT-3 is the model that powers all those things, that natural language model to work out what's wanted. So now you can use effectively cognitive services to make use of that, to pull things. I think the demo it gives, so video there of trying to write summaries of games. So I think this example kind of was looking at a game and describing what's happening with there. I know Elio Stroif recently, I don't actually know if he's used GPT-3, but he had AI write his blog posts for him. And you know what? It was pretty good. I couldn't have told that a computer written it. That capability to build into those models opens up a massive amount for people who don't necessarily have that access to there. So was really excited about this. I know in Satch's keynote he talked about this, mentioned through there. Well, put in the show notes more details of that keynote. One of the things that did make me chuckle is they had the GPT-3 and there was kind of a certain size and massive amounts in there. They've now got a new one that they've been working with, I think it was NVIDIA, which is even bigger than that. So all the great stuff you're seeing, it's going to get even better. What did catch my attention was it was called the Megatron Turing, and all I could think of was that's a transformer that's gone back to help break codes back in World War II. On there is what I envisioned for that one, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this was really interesting because we've seen this in GitHub Copilot as well. That was, that we had GitHub Universe conference that was going on around the same time. I think a couple of days ago. GitHub Copilot uses that, and you literally can write a sentence like, make a call to the Twitter API or GitHub API, and it will and return it as whatever, and it will just give you the code. It will give you an option. And I think from the really interesting thing about this is you can look at it and go, oh, it's maybe a little bit gimmicky, right? But actually from a developer velocity point of view, like that saves you a lot of time, and it might actually, it might not give you the most perfect code, but it will maybe give you that kind of, well, I kind of think I need to do it this way, but let's just see what an example is. And you go, right, yeah, and it's pair programming.
Yes. Do you know that's a fantastic analogy? I love that.
Yeah, that's the way I've been thinking about this. Certainly from the GitHub perspective, is I don't remember how to write all those lines of code, but it can tell me, and then I can then tailor it and tweak it to what I need it to do. So. As you say, it saves a phenomenal amount of time. And I think there's the scenarios that we're going to come up with, we're only just starting out to see exactly how we can use these tools, writing a blog, writing code, there's so many ways that we could be using this. We could script our podcast, use the avatars and just get it to deliver a podcast. Ingest Ignite and give us a summary.
Appropriate comment. Yeah. I'll make sensible comment.
Garry
covers the dev stuff. Yeah, this is what
Kev's going to be an actual badger then.
I really want to do that now as well. Right, we're getting far too silly now. I need to move on a little bit on there. So I think the OpenAI, I think there was a lot of other dev stuff. I saw some things around the Azure services. So if you're interested in that, there are many good podcasts which follow that as well. But do certainly give some of those a look through on the details there. What I found interesting, I think, Garry, you touched on this earlier, that a lot of the book of news felt smaller than the big announcements. And there's a few things that have started trickling out via Twitter on the sessions. One that caught my eye was Reza Durrani. Unfortunately, he hasn't mentioned which session. I'm going to have a look through in a second, see on that. We'll put the link to the post in case he does. But he picked up that with Migration Manager, one of the sort of free tools you can get with Microsoft 365, you can now migrate SharePoint workflows to Power Automate. That is pretty huge. I know that Microsoft's messaging around Power Automate has been there is no path to migrate from your SharePoint workflows to on there. You should rewrite them. You should relook at the process. It's been 4-5 years, and finally they've backtracked on that, which is really interesting.
You got to wonder how many SharePoint workflows are actually going to be migrated like this, and what the effort has gone in to actually get this to work.
Yeah,
because I don't remember. Thankfully, I don't remember seeing a SharePoint server for quite a long time. Kev, I know you've seen a lot of SharePoint servers recently, but I think that's one of the things to see exactly how many organisations have not yet moved, and if they haven't moved, is it because they've got a lot of SharePoint workflows that they don't want to move, or is it InfoPath and all those other good things that are still holding them back?
I find it interesting if they have that many, is the workflow tool, and how much I love migrations, is that going to be solid enough to be able to migrate that many, and would you trust it? I certainly wouldn't. I want to be going through all those manually in there. So it'd be interesting to know how much time it will actually save there as well.
They might be using the OpenAI service to actually do this.
Ooh, OpenAI for doing migrations. Now there is an idea. That's my day tomorrow, ruined.
The other thing might be, I wonder how many SharePoint workflows are still running in Office 365.
Yeah.
Could quite easily be based off that.
I'm assuming because this is Migration Manager, that generally is from on-premises, either FileShare or SharePoint to SharePoint Online. So I'm assuming this won't cater for those that are running in Microsoft 365, but that could be a big assumption.
Well, there's definitely a challenge for you there to go and assess it and see how effective it will be.
Paul Bullock, if you are listening, I know we did talk about this a little bit earlier. So, there is your fun and excitement for the weekend. For that, I am staying well out of it.
Yeah, but you've got something else up your sleeve for later on. I know you do.
I do have plenty of other things to do, sadly. I think we're going to find a bit of news. I know we haven't covered that much on the security and compliance, Al. We may come back with some of that at a later date when we've had a chance to digest. Maybe you'll get Pete back on the show for a quick chat on some of those.
That might be a good idea. Let's delegate all of that to Pete.
Yeah, exactly. I know he has been reading through that and picking up things. I think everything's been renamed to Defender for something or other. Is pretty much the summary from there. But the one bit that did catch my eye is possibly the most depressing one on there, is that now, announced as of Tuesday, November the 2nd, you can now have Power Apps plus Microsoft Access. As it says, equals security, mobility, and new experiences. So just when you thought that all those SharePoint workflows were dead, you can do things with those. And just when you thought Access was dead, no, it is still there.
You know what I was thinking? Those three words there. I've never heard of that and Access in the same sentence ever.
Maybe that is the key to wrap up and continue using it.
They don't say whether it's positive new experiences or negative new experiences.
As it says, Access customers have been requesting front-end app scenarios on mobile devices. You can do that. Just don't use Access, and you've got all these things. The ability to have real-time sharing and editing of, if you ignore Access, data using cloud-based data stores. You can do that. Just don't use Access.
But it's Dataverse, isn't it?
it's
for me.
What's that last part? New security and compliance capabilities through Dataverse cloud storage using Azure Active Directory and role-based security while managing it from Access.
Do you know, maybe what it is it's going to load the Dataverse screens for within the Access app. So it's actually Dataverse, but people think it's Access.
Yeah, you can have virtual tables in Dataverse.
Yeah, maybe it's what it is. I don't know. I'll be honest. I read the first bit. I was too busy laughing and then crying.
You haven't actually seen whether it's actually ingesting everything into.
No, I don't want to. I will be honest. If any of my clients are listening and this is of interest to you, I will absolutely look at it at that point. But otherwise, it's depressed me. Sorry, if you're on Access, there are better things available now.
It's migrating everything into Dataverse.
Oh, is that what it says? Right. Okay.
So new
it's actually moving off
Access and Dataverse. Yeah.
So it's the latest attempt to get data out of Access. I suppose we tried it with SharePoint, and now it's Dynamics.
So this Access connector is basically a migration tool, but they're not calling it migrations. They don't upset anyone.
It's not migration. It's probably not.
It says their migration. That's why.
No, it says migration. I don't know. It could be the virtual tables, bringing virtual tables in and surfacing them in from within Dataverse.
It wouldn't surprise me if this is all based on the connections in Access and that it's going through to Dataverse tables. The data's getting there. I think That
those
is
access
something that's
forms.
already in Access because you had that with SQL.
Yeah.
So I think it's very similar to that, but using Dataverse.
So you can
and
carry
an
on using your
ability
access
to-
forms on there, and you can talk to the
Yeah.
same data with your Power Apps, but you can carry on using your access forms with that quirky knowledge that someone 20 years ago wrote and no one has actually worked out how to
Exactly
work.
that.
I think we've got a moral for this for us to
Don't
actually
use
read the
Access.
articles before we just read the headlines out.
Yeah, true.
No,
Whereas
no, just don't
everyone's
use
learning.
Access. Sorry.
There's that.
Anyway, on that bombshell, it's probably time to wrap up. I'd say, as a general thing, I know we talked at the beginning about what our feeling was from Ignite. It's felt like a pretty good Ignite. As someone who's never been to an in-person Ignite, I do hope that this time next year we're not sitting down and talking about another virtual Ignite. I have a horrible feeling we might be. But I really hope they start to do that, and if they do, I hope they start to come up with some regional ones so you can kind of get people together and chat. I actually joined the PMP call, and they did the during the keynote because it overlapped with when the PMP call was going on. They had a kind of mini watch party there, and we were kind of chatting away with that, and that was quite nice. But I'd like to have an in-person event, if I'm honest. So I'd like it to be both, like some of the later Ignites were, but I'd like to be able to go to one once, please.
I agree with that. I think there's something to be said for actually having the physical interaction and the networking that you do, having that hybrid option, having the different locations that are all slightly closer to home. I think that's got to be an option as well.
And it's a nice sustainable option. Obviously everyone traveling all over to America is not ideal when it comes to saving the planet, but being able to get everyone together would be fantastic. And everyone's gone very sad at that point, which I think means they're tired and hungry. But thank you all those who made it up there. I'll be honest, this has been quite a long recording, so I'm probably going to try and break this down a little bit as I put it in there. I'll try and put it out around the same time, but at least you won't have listened to us for however long this has ended up being from there as well. I'm looking at our overall chat time is coming up to 2.5 hours now, and I think I can hear Al's stomach growling at this point. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have enjoyed Ignite. Do remember you can go back and listen to pretty much all the sessions afterwards. Otherwise, I've been Gray.
I've been Hat.
I've been Beard.
Thanks very much, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.